Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Katie and I have had chronic pain for going on 10 years now. It's been a minute. I've had a lot of treatment and have found some success and some really bad failures, but in that past 10 years I have gone through a full range of emotion. And frankly, a lot of the time, I kind of feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I am the only one experiencing these ups and downs. They're difficult emotions and a lot of different difficult emotions that I feel at one time. And it's hard to express that. It's hard to really even understand or identify what feelings I'm feeling, and that oftentimes can make the pain even worse. If my depression is out of whack, if my anxiety is out of whack, my pain also tends to flare up. A couple years ago, I found something online though that changed my life truly, and it is the 7 psychological stages of chronic pain. The 7 psychological stages of chronic pain are as follows. 1. Denial. 2. Pleading, bargaining, and desperation. 3. Anger. 4. Anxiety and depression. 5. Loss of self and confusion. 6. Reevaluation of life, roles, and goals. And 7. Acceptance. Now, I just want to point out before we go any further that these stages are not linear. These stages can come at any point. They can kind of skip around. And certainly, even once you've hit that acceptance phase, you can kind of go back into these stages of grief and mourning. I wanted to talk about how these stages showed up in my life, and over the last 10 years of dealing with chronic pain, I feel like for certain stages I was stuck for even a couple of years in those stages, trying to process and trying to really accept where I was at. And certainly that first stage, denial, I probably spent at least 2 years in that stage before I really was willing to move on to that next stage and move forward in feeling acceptance towards my chronic pain diagnosis. By the time I saw a neurologist for my chronic migraines, I had been having them daily, almost all day long, for almost 2 years. And in my head, I felt like this isn't a big deal. People get headaches and migraines all the time. I'm going to be totally fine. I'll go to this doctor. She'll give me some medicine. It's not going to be a big deal. I'm going to survive off of like caffeine and ibuprofen as long as possible. And eventually, when I go to a neurologist, they will prescribe me something. It will be a quick fix. No big deal. Not a problem. So I went to my neurologist, and all I can say is I was very ignorant at that point, and I think she could tell that. She couldn't straight up say, hey, you don't really understand that this is literally going to change your life forever, but she knew it. And she even brought up, like, do you want some antidepressants? That tends to be a thing most people want who have really bad chronic pain. And I brushed it off, right? This was not going to affect me long term. I was just there to get my medicine and it was going to be better. And of course, that didn't work out so well because several of the medications I tried before, I ended up finding Botox, which was the medication that has ultimately worked the best for me. Those medications did not work, and they made my mental illness much worse. That I was suicidal for a long time. So by the time I was suicidal, a couple months after that initial neurology visit, I was at the point of stage number 2. So stage number 2 for me looked like I was trying to find the magic pill, the cure. I was desperate to get my old life back. I was recognizing that this was a bigger deal than I initially thought. And I thought that if I just pushed forward as hard as I could, if I went to all the doctors and tried all the things, that I would find something that would work because I wanted my old life back. At this point, it had been over 2 years that I had been living with chronic pain. I didn't want to be this person anymore. I wasn't that person. And so I was really trying to find the magic cure. Now again, this didn't work. I still live with chronic pain, even with my Botox, even with my antidepressants and all of the little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. I still live with chronic pain, still got depression and anxiety, And on top of my chronic migraine diagnosis, I have other chronic pain diagnoses. So that quick fix didn't really work for me. And at this point, we feel angry. And I never wanted to label myself as angry. I always felt like anger was something you feel when you're not in control, but realistically, when you have chronic pain, you're not in control. And additionally, I use the word, I think, frustration. Like, I'm frustrated, which is the same as anger. It's okay. It's okay to be angry. I was angry, I think, for a long time. And I was angry because this was not the way I had planned my life. I felt like I had done everything as best I could until that point. I didn't deserve, and I still don't deserve, a life with chronic pain, and yet here I am. And that's so frustrating, and it's so hard, and we feel angry. And it's justifiable. That's a natural reaction to, losing any part of control of our life, but that's a huge thing to lose control over, is your body and your health. And so we're angry. I was angry at the present, at the past that I had, missed out on, past events. My grandma's funeral, I didn't get to attend that. I had a horrible migraine. I was angry at the future. I was angry that my future was going to include this pain that was of no fault of my own and yet was going to dictate most aspects of my life. Because of that anger, because of the pain, because of all of these intense emotions, I was clinically diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Now, these things happened very quickly, and they happened kind of in a cycle of each other. The more angry I got, I felt depressed. The more depressed I got, the more angry I felt. And then, of course, the pain would get worse and worse. Anytime any of that flared, the pain would flare as well. And this depression and anxiety was nothing I was familiar with. Like I said, I was suicidal for a year and a half. And I think most of that was caused by a medication I was on that I didn't realize was causing it, but I was already prone to those feelings of anxiety and depression because I was in a state of chronic pain all the time. This anxiety and depression is, again, an appropriate response to a loss of something, a loss of our health, a loss of control, a loss of our body, a loss of relationships, maybe financial loss if you have to quit your job. And it's just extremely difficult to deal with this depression and anxiety. So I had a really hard time hanging out with my friends who I had known for years and years because I felt like I had become a different person. I felt like any kind of identifying parts of me, parts that gave me value, and parts of my identity were gone. I'd played high school soccer, and a lot of my friends had played with me, and I couldn't do that anymore. They could go and play intramural pickup games. They could go on runs together. They could work out together, and I couldn't. And so I was really uncomfortable for a while hanging out with them, and it was no fault of theirs, but I just was struggling with myself, and I didn't know who I was anymore. It was a loss of identity. And so then to try and go out in these social situations were really, really difficult. I would come home just super depressed that I couldn't be this person that I had been my whole life. And I was really anxious to even go out at all because I felt like I was playing a part. I was acting. I couldn't be myself because I didn't even know who I was anymore. I touched on stage number 5, this loss of self and confusion, but truly chronic pain does that too. It does it hard. It takes yourself and it takes your identity, the things that you're really proud of, that you've worked for, and it kind of strips you of those things. And that, of course, is very difficult to deal with. And it's hard to express to other people because I think on the outside looking in, you can say, oh yeah, you're going through a rough patch, or even if you are sick, you've still done all these amazing things and you're still this person. But realistically, you don't feel like that person anymore. And there is a change that happens when you have to cut the activities that you love out of your life. When your relationships are affected, you do change. And that's something that takes time to process through. So at some point, all of this leads to a re-evaluation of your life, your roles, and your goals. And this stage is so critical. It's so critical because at this point you're recognizing, yeah, I'm a different person. I've got anxiety, I've got depression, I've got chronic pain. My life is not what I thought it would be. And we've got to figure some things out because I can't live like this forever. So we're re-evaluating. For me, that looked like dropping out of school, which was a huge, huge deal. I got so much of my value and my identity from doing well in high school and in college. And ultimately, I had to drop out. I still don't have my bachelor's degree. Be patient, and I've had to accept that this is not my plan, but I've had to change things because my initial plan was not possible in my current body. It's not possible. It wasn't possible to be a wife, to have children, to finish school, to work. It just wasn't possible. And so we reevaluate. For me, I became not a student, but I became a friend. I'm a better friend now. I'm more empathetic. I'm more kind. And ultimately, I'm a much better person. So that to me, those roles that have changed for me have actually been something I'm really proud of. And it's been a good thing. But that was a really hard evaluation to make and to come to terms that I'm not going to be a student anymore. I'm not going to be self-sufficient anymore. And that's okay. A more simpler way to put that is we say, I can't do blank, but what can I do? And you can think of that in terms of hobbies, in terms of careers, in terms of relationships. What can you do realistically, comfortably, that will make you feel good and that will serve a purpose for you? The final stage is acceptance, and this stage does come. I want you to know that this stage does actually come. I did not think it would ever come for me, especially during that year and a half of feeling suicidal, but it does come. As we work towards our mental health alongside with our physical health, acceptance comes. I want to say that acceptance doesn't mean we're okay with our pain or we're okay with our diagnosis. I would love to have my pain gone, and I would love to add in some of the things I had to give up, but acceptance means that we are okay with who we are. We find new things that bring us joy. Again, there are those things out there I didn't think there were, but I've been able to add a little bit here and there, things that fill my cup intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically that I didn't see before. Now, just as a reminder, these stages, again, are not linear. We can jump through them, we can jump out of them, we can feel like we have reached that place of acceptance and then find ourselves like right back in at the beginning with denial. In the last couple of weeks, life has gotten pretty hard for different reasons, and about a week ago I just kind of like had an emotional night. Just kind of needed to cry and let it all out and, you know, come to terms again that this is not the way I saw my life. The body I'm in right now, the limited exercise I'm able to do, it's not the way I wanted it to be. It's not my plan. And I felt so frustrated. I felt depressed. I felt anxious. I went through seriously this entire cycle in, you know, a couple of days. And finally, me crying, me talking to my husband, I woke up the next morning and I felt fine. I felt good. I felt like I had reached that acceptance stage again. So if you've had chronic pain for a long amount of time, if you're like, oh, don't worry, I've got this, I've been doing this forever, it's still so helpful to know these stages. It's helpful to be able to identify what you're feeling and to know that these responses are so natural, and it's something we have to feel to then reach the acceptance phase. So I hope this video has helped you. I want you to know that even if you're at the point where you feel like I am not myself, I don't have worth, I don't have value, I'm not able to do anything that I want to do, and I'm in bed all day. I've been where you are. I felt that way. I've been stuck in bed, and I want you to know there's hope. I want you to know that you have worth, even if you have been in bed all day, even if you're not being productive. That's okay. You have worth just because you're here, you're alive. I would love to see you in the next video, and I hope that you know that you're loved. Have a good one. Bye.